A vise is one of those must-have tools, so the question is that $60 vise just as good as the one that cost over $500? Well, let's find out. In the first test, we'll see which vise has the best anvil. Then we'll see which vise can handle the hardest hammer blow. Then we'll test the maximum clamp load for each brand. At a price of only $63, the least expensive bench vise that we'll be testing is the Myoyay brand. The vise body is made from heavy-duty cast iron for high hardness and durability. 360-degree swivel base. Vise jaws are made from number 45 steel with diamond-shaped grooves for more clamping force. And the screw diameter is 1/2 inch. And the handle on the Myoyay is very short at only 4.5 inches from the end of the handle to the center of the screw. And the jaw opening is 4 3/4 inches. The vise has been powder coated. The Myoyay brand is made in China. The Myoyay weighs 21.8 pounds. And the Myoyay hasn't even been put to the test and it's already pretty loose. 0.16 inches of backlash is quite a bit. Let's kick off our first test comparing clamping force. Handle length and screw thread pitch varies a lot. So I applied very close to 180 pounds of weight on the end of the vise handle. To standardize the amount of handle force applied to each vise, I put together this attachment which will allow torque to be applied to each vise handle equally. Let's see how much torque it takes to advance the vise handle. So very close to 30 foot-pounds at 4 inches beyond the end of the vise handle. I'll go ahead and set the click-style torque wrench to 30 foot-pounds and I'll use it when testing each of the vises. At a price of $78 is this Olympia Tools bench vise, 6-inch jaw width, and the handle is 6 1/4 inches in length. Replaceable hardened jaw faces. Includes a 270-degree swivel base and a powder-coated finish. Heavy reinforced 3-lug base. Includes permanent pipe jaws, polished anvil, and anvil horn for shaping. The Olympia Tools is made in China. The Olympia Tools weighs 28.76 pounds. Unfortunately, the build quality of the Olympia Tools really seems to be lacking. There's a lot of side-to-side jaw movement and the screw is very gritty. And the Olympia Tools vise has a longer handle than the Myoyay, but the screw is larger and is very gritty, which really hurt the performance. 1,283 pounds is almost 900 pounds less than the Myoyay. At a price of $78, the same price as the Olympia Tools, is this Central Forge, which is sold at Harbor Freight. And the handle is a 1/4 inch longer than the Olympia Tools handle at 6 1/2 inches. Replaceable hardened steel jaws. 360-degree swivel base locks in place. The anvil size is 3 3/4 inches by 3 3/8. The jaw width is 6 inches and the maximum jaw opening is 6 1/4. It claims to be made of rugged cast iron. The Central Forge is made in China. And the Harbor Freight Central Forge weighs 27.4 pounds. And the build quality of the Central Forge definitely seems to be better than the Olympia. However, there's quite a bit of side-to-side jaw movement. And the Central Forge has a longer handle and a smaller screw with a finer thread pitch, which really helped it perform well in the clamp load test, but we'll see how it holds up on the durability test soon. 5,357 pounds is the most yet. At a price of $90 is this Forward brand. Made of medium-duty cast iron construction, 30,000 psi tensile strength. Smooth poly steel anvil is 3 1/2 inches by 3 1/2. Includes a 120-degree swivel base with dual lockdown nuts. The vise is secured with 3 anchor holes. Includes replaceable micro-groove tooth steel jaws. And the Forward handle is 6 1/2 inches, the same length as the Central Forge. The Forward vise is made in China. The Forward weighs 28.9 pounds. And the Forward has quite a bit of jaw slop and has 0.116 inches of backlash. And the Forward has a larger diameter screw and a coarser thread pitch, which really hurt it on this test at 4,222 pounds, or about 1,000 pounds less than the Central Forge. At a price of $105 is this Irwin brand. Captured safety jaw prevents slide from falling during heavy-duty use. Anvil and pipe jaws incorporated for a sturdy grip. Aggressive steel jaws maintain a secure hold. And the Irwin offers 7 1/2 inches of handle leverage, the most yet. All the previous vises have 3 hold downs, but the Irwin has 4. The Irwin vise is made in China. The Irwin is the heaviest yet at 31.3 pounds. And the Irwin seems to have the best build quality yet with very little slop or side-to-side jaw movement. 0.024 inches of backlash is the best yet. And the Irwin ran out of steam about 500 pounds sooner than the Central Forge at 4,851 pounds. At price of $164 is the Baileigh brand. It claims to offer 4 1/2 tons of clamping force. Made of 60,000 psi tensile strength, durable ductile cast iron. The Baileigh offers the most handle leverage of all the brands at 8 1/4 inches in length. Includes replaceable top jaws. The Baileigh is made in China. And the Baileigh weighs 38.7 pounds. And the Baileigh seems to have a little bit more side-to-side jaw movement than the Irwin. 0.034 inches isn't quite as good as the Irwin. And the Baileigh has a 3/4 inch core screw, which really hurt its performance for the clamp load. 4,621 pounds, or about 200 pounds less than the Irwin. At a price of $166 is this Wilton bench vise. Includes a 6-inch jaw opening, 30,000 psi gray cast iron body. Double lockdown swivel base rotates 120 degrees. Includes groove steel jaw inserts and large anvil work surface. The Wilton is made in China. The Wilton weighs 36.6 pounds. And the Wilton feels solid, but there's quite a bit of slop. 0.033 inches of backlash, which is almost the same as the Baileigh. Just like the Baileigh, the Wilton has a 3/4 inch screw, but the Wilton's shorter handle held it back. 4,212 pounds. At a price of $198, is this Yost 460. The brand new Yost right out of the box already has a bent handle. The clamp force is rated for 6,650 pounds. The jaw opening and the jaw width is 6 inches. The throat depth is 4.37 inches. Includes a 360-degree interlocking swivel base. 2 lockdowns adjust the direction of the jaws for proper placement. High-strength steel bar and 30,000 psi cast iron vise components. The Yost is made in China. And the Yost is by far the heaviest yet at 52.9 pounds. And the Yost has a lot more side-to-side jaw movement than the Wilton. It also has more backlash at 0.041 inches. And the Yost is very large and heavy and has the largest screw diameter yet at 0.85 inches. And the extra coarse threads and short handle really hurt. And it's already over at 2,891 pounds. At a price of $250, is this 4.5-inch Ridgid vise. Includes a steel handle with anti-pinch steel rings. 75,000 psi tensile strength drop forward steel construction. And the Ridgid has the longest handle yet at 9.25 inches. Rugged design outperforms bulky cast iron versions. Patented parallel jaw alignment system for precise clamping action. Includes 4.75-inch jaw opening. The jaws on the Ridgid are not replaceable. The Ridgid is made in Germany. The Ridgid is very light at only 22.8 pounds. A little less side-to-side jaw movement than most of the other brands. 0.012 inches is the best yet. And the Ridgid is small, but it does have a very large 3/4-inch screw, and it's extremely stiff. And the Ridgid ran out of steam early at only 2,447 pounds. At a price of $500, the most expensive bench vise we'll be testing is the Brockhaus Heuer 140. Forged entirely of steel and guaranteed unbreakable. We're going to test that. The jaws are not replaceable. And the Heuer offers the most handle length yet at 9.75 inches. The jaw opening is 8 inches. The Brockhaus Heuer is made in Germany. 37.4 pounds for the Heuer. And the Heuer has very little side-to-side jaw movement and there's almost no backlash. Even though the Heuer has the longest handle giving it some extra leverage, it also has the largest and coarsest screw. Not even a quarter of a turn and it's already finished at 2,820 pounds. So when it comes to handle clamp load leverage, the Central Forge came out on top at 5,357 pounds. The Irwin finished in second at 4,851, Baileigh 4,621, Ford 4,222, and Wilton 4,212 pounds. Let's test the hardness of the Anvil using these metal hardness files that range from HRC 40 to HRC 65. And the Myoyay is very easy to scratch and is quite a bit softer than Rockwell HRC 40. Since anvils are designed for impact, let's drop this solid steel cylinder with a nail punch. The total weight is 6.8 pounds and we'll drop it from a distance of 48 inches. The tip diameter is 0.15 inches. And the impact from the steel cylinder didn't cause the Myoyay to rebound off the floor too much. And the anvil did experience a pretty big dent. I'll go ahead and use a tester to measure the depth of the crater. Once the gauge is lying flat on the anvil, I'll zero out the scale and then slide the scale until the gauge tip drops down into the crater. 0.022 inches. And the Olympia tool seems even softer than the Myoyay. Not even a bounce from the Olympia tools. Not a good sign. I did not expect to see that happen. A really large hole in the Olympia. And the anvil on the Olympia tools is extremely thin and definitely not designed for a serious blow. The Central Forge has a Rockwell hardness less than 40, but it didn't scratch as easily as the Olympia tools. And the test pin did rebound quite a bit after impacting the anvil. And the Central Forge performed the best yet with an indentation of 0.0175 inches or about 20% less damage than the Myoyay. And the Ford is very soft, and the impact caused the Ford vise to rebound quite a bit. The anvil seems to be acting more like a springboard than an anvil. And the Ford experienced more damage than the Central Forge and the Myoyay at 0.024 inches. The Irwin seems just as soft as a forward, and the Irwin vise didn't rebound off the floor too much, but it did experience a pretty deep indentation. 0.028 inches is the deepest dent yet. And the Baileigh seems very soft, just like the Irwin. And the Baileigh also reacted to the impact just about the same as the Irwin. And the Baileigh has the deepest dent yet at 0.0305 inches. And the Wilton doesn't seem quite as soft as the Baileigh. However, the Wilton did seem to jump off the floor a little bit more than the Irwin and the Baileigh. 0.026 inches is a little bit better than the Irwin and the Baileigh. And the Yost is pretty soft, and the Yost is the heaviest vise in the lineup, and it didn't react to the impact nearly as much as many of the other brands. However, the nail punch left a pretty big dent at 0.042 inches. Unlike the other vises, the Ridgid is a lot harder with 75,000 psi forged steel, and it has a much higher Rockwell hardness than the other anvils. No visible damage from the HRC 40, 45, and 50 files. And there's a light scratch from the 55 file, and a little bit deeper scratch with the 60, so the Ridgid is much harder than all the previous brands. And the hammer punch did not do so well coming into contact with the Ridgid, and there's a visible spark coming from the hammer punch. And the impact from the hammer punch made a very small indentation at 0.0015 inches or about 93% less damage than the best vise so far. I'll go ahead and remove the paint from the Anvil on the Heuer. And the Heuer is made from drop forged steel and it's harder than most of the other Vises. And the HRC 45 file did leave a small scratch in the Anvil. After coming into contact with the Heuer, the nail punch is now bent. That's a very solid Anvil. And the Heuer moves into second place behind the Ridgid at 0.014 inches. I put together this next tester to compare the durability of the Vises when it comes to impact. The metal I'll be dropping weighs 63 pounds. I'll start off with a 6-inch drop, then I'll drop from a foot in 6-inch increments all the way up to 3 feet. Then we'll see if any of the Vises can survive 10 blows from 3 feet. To secure the workpiece in place, I'll apply 40 pounds of torque to the Vises. And the Myoyay did just fine at 6 inches and a foot. Unfortunately, things aren't looking too good at 18 inches as the Vise is beginning to loosen up. And the hammer drop from 2 feet is way too much for the Myoyay. And the lockdown collar is very brittle and broke into 2 pieces. And the Olympia tools is already loosening up at 6 inches. And the Olympia tools is even looser at 12 inches. And the Vise is still hanging in there and wants more action. And the hammer blow from 2 feet is all the Olympia tools can handle, and now the Vise hold downs are no longer holding the Vise securely to the base. Let's drop again from 24 inches and finish it off. And it's all over for the Olympia tools, and the hold down bar is bent pretty badly. And the hold down screws were completely ripped out of the hold down bar. And Essential Forge seems to be built a lot better than the Olympia tools, and the Myoyay easily withstanding blows all the way up to 2 feet. And Essential Forge is the first brand to be tested at a maximum height of 3 feet. And Essential Forge definitely felt that one. And things are still going well for the Essential Forge after the second and third blow from full height. And there appears to be some jaw movement with the 4th blow. And the jaw screw just flew off the Essential Forge on the 5th blow. So the Essential Forge technically broke on the 5th blow, but let's keep going. And it's all over for the Essential Forge as the upper jaw just came loose. And the 2 screws sheared that hold the replaceable jaw in place, but that's a pretty easy repair. And the Ford made it all the way up to the maximum height without a problem. And the Vise did just fine on the first blow, but something flew off on the second. And the Ford refused to give up, taking blow after blow. I did have to tighten down the Vise after several more impacts from the hammer. And the Ford is still holding onto the workpiece after 10 blows, but it's not looking good. Just like the Essential Forge, the bolts holding the replaceable jaw in place finally broke. And the first hammer strike from 3 feet is all it took to loosen the hold downs. And I've tightened the hold down screws as much as I can, and the Vise is still loose. And the Irwin survived 10 blows from the hammer, but the metal hold down bar and the retaining bolts are bent. And the Baileigh only has 1 hold down screw for the Vise. And the Baileigh took blow after blow from the hammer and held onto the workpiece just fine after 10 back-to-back hammer blows. And the bolts that secure the Vise jaws to the Vise broke during the test, but there's no visible damage to the Vise hold down assembly. And the base on the Wilton Vise cracked after just 2 hammer blows. And it's over for the Wilton after 3 blows, and the base is broken into several pieces. Definitely a light-duty Vise that's not designed for serious blows to the workpiece. And the Yost is the heaviest Vise in the lineup at almost 53 pounds. And the Yost is holding up very well from the hammer blows, and the jaws are staying tight. And the Yost survived 10 back-to-back blows from full height without any visible damage. So the Yost is the first Vise to survive the entire test without any problems. And the Ridgid claims that their rugged design outperforms bulky cast iron versions. While the Ridgid does have a great anvil, 1 hammer blow from full height caused a lot of damage to the Ridgid. And the base of the Vise is badly bent. And the Heuer brand claims to be indestructible, and it has a fixed base design that's very strong. And the workpiece stayed secured in the jaws without any shifting or movement. And the Heuer survived all 10 blows from the hammer without experiencing any damage. So the Ford, Irwin, Baileigh, Yost, and Heuer all survived 10 blows from the hammer. However, only the Yost and the Heuer survived without any damage. In the final test, let's compare the maximum clamp load for each Vise. And a very short handle on the Vise is a pretty good indicator of the build quality of the tool. And the Myoyay is maxed out at only 4,806 pounds. And the Vise jaw is a source of failure, and the screw is badly bent. And the Olympia Tools Vise is doing a lot better than the Myoyay, but it seems to be out of steam at 5,466 pounds. And the main body of the Olympia tools broke from front to back. Definitely a very light-duty Vise that is not designed for rugged use. And the Essential Forge performed very well in the previous clamp load test. This time, the Essential Forge made it to 13,063 pounds before the main screw finally broke. Not bad for a $78 Vise. And the Ford has a little bit larger diameter screw than the Essential Forge, which might be a factor on this test. And the Vise handle is badly bent at just over 10,000 pounds, so I'll use a socket. And the Ford made it to 14,455 pounds when the back of the Vise suddenly came apart. And the screw survived the test, but the main body of the Vise is broken from front to back. And the Irwin has a little bit deeper throat compared to the previous brands, making this a much more challenging test. And the handle is badly bent at just about 10,000 pounds. And the Irwin made it to 11,104 pounds before things went from happy to snappy. Just like the Essential Forge, the screw broke on the Irwin. And the Baileigh made it to around 11,000 pounds before the handle became badly bent. And the Baileigh has an even deeper throat at 4 inches compared to 3 inches for the Irwin. Even with the deeper throat, the Baileigh still held up very well, finally letting go at 12,935 pounds. And the main screw finally broke in the spot that had been drilled for a retaining pin. The Vise slide also experienced a small bend. And the base on the Wilton broke during the last test, so it's bolted to the table. And the handle on the Wilton is holding up just fine at just over 10,000 pounds. Unfortunately, with each turn, the Wilton is beginning to lose progress. And the main body of the Wilton finally blew apart into several pieces. And the Yost has the deepest throat in the lineup at over 4 inches, making this an extremely challenging test. And the handle is finished at around 7,500 pounds. And the Yost held on a lot longer than anticipated. After rotating the screw several more times, the screw finally stretched and reached failure point. So 10,150 pounds for the Yost. Not surprisingly, the slide experienced a pretty bad bend, and the Ridgid made it to just over 9,000 pounds and the handle was holding up just fine. For safety reasons, I went ahead and installed the socket to stay clear of flying parts, and the Ridgid made it to 12,290 pounds. And the screw finally gave up after several more turns. And the slide in the Ridgid did experience a small bend. And the Heuer claims to be indestructible. At almost an inch, the main screw on the Heuer is the largest in the lineup. And the handle is bent at just over 16,000 pounds. And the Heuer just wouldn't give up. After rotating the screw several more times, I ended the test since the slide is bending downwards and hitting the table. So 22,590 pounds is by far the best. Clamp load is a critical factor when trying to secure a workpiece, and the Heuer did the best at 22,590 pounds. Forward finished in second at 14,455, Central Forge 13,063, and Baileigh 12,935 pounds. Jaw opening is another factor to consider, and the Heuer is right at 8 inches. Harbor Freight Central Forge 6.25 and Yost 6 inches. So which vise is best? The Heuer is definitely the best vise with an average finish of 1.3, but it's also very expensive. The Forward and Central Forge are very affordable and also perform very well. When it comes to a bench vise, there's a lot to consider, so hopefully this list of specifications will help you if you're considering a bench vise. I have to admit, I'm pretty impressed with the Harbor Freight Central Forge when you consider the value price of under $80. I also like the Heuer quite a bit, but $500 is quite a bit more. All the videos in this channel, including this one, are viewer suggested. So if you have a video idea, I hope you take time to leave a comment. Thanks so much for watching. Please take care, and I look forward to next time.